So thank you so much once again for joining me tonight. And for our listeners, I'm here with Derrick D.Y. McDaniel. He's the producer and songwriter for the newest jam, Choose Life. So before we get started about your newest single, can you give me a rundown of your humble beginnings?
Oh, my humble beginnings, very humble beginnings, but good beginnings, I think. Let's see. I'm a New Yorker, born and bred. First few years were definitely in the city, up in the Bronx. Mom joined the military, so we did the around the world tour, going from duty station to duty station. Came back to the U.S. to do, college, grad school, so on and so forth, and a couple of professional stops, one being Wall Street, and then into the music scene. So, I mean, that's the short version of a much longer story, but those are the highlights, definitely.
Okay. Now, you are an attorney turned representative for the elderly and their families. Can you tell us about that?
Okay. Yes. So, one, I am an attorney, but that does not make me a bad person. Two, as I said, I was, because in addition to having my law degree, I also have an MBA. So I was working on Wall Street for JP Morgan, or I guess now JP Morgan Chase, doing deals. So I was an investment banker for them. And at that time, that was great. My mom, who was the primary caregiver for my grandmother, she passed away unexpectedly. And when she passed away, caring for my grandmother became my responsibility, or my privilege, quite frankly, because it allowed me to give back to someone that had been given to me all my life. So as I assumed more of that role of a caregiver for her, I started to realize that the elder care space had some opportunities to do things better. And so I started moving into that space, first as a, let's call it an authority, and then I owned a home care company, and then I became more of a consultant to corporations. So, yes. So I definitely spent some time there, and I got to do some good things over there. So, and I've been able to help a lot of people from that perspective. So that was a blessing as well.
Can you hear me?
Now I can. There we go.
Okay. And I said, from that perspective, you have keen insight on mental health and mental wellness for the elderly.
Absolutely. So the in that space, you actually have two different constituencies. I think you look at that from look at it like a coin. On one side of the coin, you have the elderly. On the other side of the coin, though, you have the caregivers. And so you really have to look at mental wellness and health, actually overall health, for both constituencies, because while people look at the elderly and elder care and think almost exclusively about the older folks, the caregivers, the ones who are caring for their moms, their dads, their grandparents, their favorite uncles, elder care can really impact those caregivers as well. So you have to look at both of them.
Okay. So my next question. Now I got questions.
Okay. I got answers. Let's rock.
You had a soft launch, let's say that. Let's talk about your unofficial background in music, where you wrote a song for your wedding nearly 20 years ago, but hadn't done music since then. Right. Tell me about that, and tell me the reason why there's such a huge gap.
Well, we're just gonna say life. The I had written songs prior to that song and really enjoyed it, and things were going well with it. But then I got married and kind of, I don't know, became more responsible, let's say, and more focused. And, as I said, I was on Wall Street, and then I built out the elder care organizations and, had a couple of kids, my blessings. And, so life really happened. And next thing you know, you blink and a couple of decades has gone by. So and now returning to music, that's, we're going to call this an unexpected gift of the pandemic, because when the pandemic hit, my life, like most people's, kind of slowed down, and I actually had time to sit in a quiet space for the first time in a couple of decades, and then the music started flowing again. So this was unexpected, but definitely a blessing.
Well, congratulations for finding your passion, in the midst of living in life itself.
Well,
I know how difficult that can be, kind of not so much losing it, but, not fevering. So, to get it, and you are amazingly talented. I'm glad that you
Thank you.
Sharing with us. Sharing with us, period, because first you saved it for your wife. Now you're sharing it with the world. How about that? So, seeing music in color. Tell us about that beautiful passion of yours.
It's really interesting. Because I actually do see music in colors. And when I listen to a song, I see it'll sound, and it's really difficult to describe this, but I'll hear it the way other people see colors. So for example, it'll sound dark to me. It'll sound lighter to me. And I'm able to put together sounds pretty much the same way people might match colors. And that works for me. That's kind of there's some word that I truly don't know what it is, but that's the way it is for me. So the way other people might put together a track because they hear the sounds, I'll put together a track, or I'll put together the lyrics because the colors match, and and it works. So it's weird. I still hear sound like everyone else, but in my brain, it translates it into colors.
I do think that's just, that might be a disability. For sure.
It might be. Hey, it might be. And you know what? Hey, if it is, then I'm gonna rock with it, because it's been working out well. And hey, it would definitely explain some things, because there have been times when my wife has wondered, like, and even said, like, you know what, something's wrong with you. And so maybe that's the explanation.
Well, that passion, there's that passion. You're going to see and hear things differently because you're more in tune to it than everybody else, where we hear something that we just like, you hear something that you love, that you can create with and do amazing things with. So, and that leads me into my next question, and it's not about music just yet. It's about the data. Center for Disease Control and Prevention says suicide is the leading cause of death within the USA, with 46,000 residents who've taken their own lives in 2020 within young people aged 10 to 14, and suicide was the second leading cause of death for the youth. How did that make you feel?
Well, I have two young daughters, and they're my blessing. They really are. And that, hearing that final part of what you just said, as a parent, terrifies me, quite frankly. When you really think about that and you really process it, it's frightening to think that, because 10 to 14 years old, when I was 10 to 14 years old, I'm outside playing, I'm riding my bike, doing all sorts of stuff that gets me in trouble, but age appropriate stuff that gets me in trouble, like staying out too late, or you're playing ball or something, you accidentally break somebody's window, or something age appropriate.
Right.
The thought of children at that age sitting around thinking about how they can end their own lives. I mean, oh my gosh, that's too heavy a weight. Children shouldn't have to think about stuff like that. Obviously, not everybody's life is perfect, and unfortunately, some children are born into what I would consider to be hell on earth, and that's tragic. But we're supposed to be trying to help those children, not watching them in their lives. It's too soon. It's like, they haven't started living yet. You ain't supposed to be trying to stop something you haven't actually started yet. So, yes. So as a father, it scares me. And the song Choose Life, the whole second verse is dedicated to like cyberbullying and stuff, because the suicide became the number one leading cause of death for that age group, and actually even higher for 20 and under. Suicide became the leading cause of death, and had been for the last 18 years, I think it was, right up until last year. Last year, for the first time, gun violence took over, and that's a whole different can of worms. But think about it. For 18 years consecutively, suicide was the leading cause of death for kids 18 and younger.
Right.
That's, I mean, it's, and see, you use the right word right there, because I love the word you used, startling. Given the amount of kids that were killing themselves, that shouldn't startle anyone at this point, because we should be talking about it. Right. We should be doing something about it. We should be trying to prevent it. And that's actually why I wrote the song, because I'm hoping that, one, that it will be able to help some people. Two, if not help people, actually at least start a dialogue about these sort of topics. Whether it be suicide or depression. I mean, because, and this is one of the lyrics in the song I put in there. It's, this is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Problems are bad, and we all have them. Also in the song I put, we all have good days and bad days, and that's the truth. That's life itself. But, our bad days may feel longer, or it may feel like we just have too many of them. But any of us that's lived long enough, we know that eventually things will get better. Eventually. You just gotta, you gotta ride through it. You gotta figure out a way to get through it. But when you create such a permanent solution, i.e. suicide, well, that's permanent. You don't come back from that.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's scary to me.
It's beyond that, because like you said, children shouldn't be thinking about that. Children, young adults, but we live in a generation where things are not always cut and dry for the youth, where you have the internet, you have just so many accessible things that they can get a hold of, and they think, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. With this, you have emo, you have different musical styles that kind of cultivate those sad feelings. So that's another conversation. And then speaking of the conversation, do you think suicide is becoming a larger conversation since the public and untimely deaths of Chelsea Christ and Ian Alexander?
I hope it's becoming more of a conversation. I mean, the song Choose Life, I actually wrote it the night that I read about Chelsea's death. I mean, it hit me that hard. So I read that article, and I sat down and I wrote the song. It was my way of doing something about this. Like that song took me 25 minutes to write, I think it was. So it was just incredibly quick because her death really, really hit me. I didn't know her personally. And, all my thoughts and prayers to her family and the folks who did know her. But think about that level of tragedy there. Suicide and life itself, it's not an easy thing. And I do not mean to oversimplify it. I do not. And, because I want to give full faith and credit to the people who are struggling with this. I'm not here to say that it's easy. It's not. I know that it is complex. But I do want people to know that they can get help, that they can try to get help, whether it's, professional help or talk to your friends and family. Because, one of the things about suicide, from what I've read at least, is that people feel so isolated. They feel that only they are going through what they're going through, and no one else will get it or no one else will understand it. That's why we need to have this sort of dialogue. So like those people can go, okay, other people are struggling too. And maybe they can find some comfort in that, or they can find some sort of an educational way that they can get from someone else who's been through that sort of struggle. So I guess that would be like an inspirational sort of thing, like, okay, if they can do it, maybe I can do it too, sort of thing. So, but before we can have stuff like that, we have to talk about it. People have to know that they can talk about it, and then they'll be in a safe space to talk about it. That's really what the song is meant to do. At least that's what I had hoped that it would do. One, that for the people that listen to it, that, it will inspire them and maybe give them some hope and lift them up a little bit. Let them know that they're not alone. But even if it doesn't do that, hopefully, though, the song can be a launching pad for the conversations that need to be had. Because that's, I think that's the starting point. Let's start talking about these issues.
Well, you are on to something heavy, that's for sure, but it just the conversation needs to continue because, this, like I alluded to earlier about this generation opposed to Gen X, they are different. They feel things differently. They feel a lot stronger than us because we were raised quite differently, where we had to hold all these things and feelings in and brush them to the side. And the youth and the people coming up in this generation feel every single thing thrown at them in life. So it is a serious conversation to have. But on a lighter note, you have created this beautiful song, Choose Life, and you have two different versions of it. So tell us about that.
Okay, so the song itself, because as you said, this is a very heavy topic, I intentionally wrote the song and paired it with a music that is very upbeat. I didn't want it to be slow and feel heavy, like some sort of like funeral dirge or something like that. So it's an upbeat song. It's a poppy, upbeat sort of track. And so with the two different versions, there's a male version and a female version. The female version feels slightly more like an R&B track. The male version, because of the vocal delivery style difference, the male version feels a little bit more poppy. And so, I've let a bunch of different people hear both versions, and this is the beauty of the music. Some people absolutely love the female version, And some people absolutely love the male version. And I'm great with either way. I'm like, listen, because that's what music is. Music is supposed to be that. It's supposed to, while it's a universal medium, it's supposed to be personal. And so, and that's why we did two different versions, because I wanted to appeal to both sides of that, of the owl, so to speak. And, you know, it's, so whichever version people like, I'm good with it. As long as they're hearing it and hopefully taking something away from it, and, you know, maybe sharing it. Because of all the tracks I've done, and this I think is one of the most important, at least to me personally, as the creative behind the song. It feels really good. Like I've done a bunch of songs where people are like, yo, that song is hot. I love it. You know, da 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 da. This song, I've played it for so many people, and almost to a person, they've all come back with this response, and I love this response. They say, you know what? People need to hear this song. People need to hear this song. I love that. I love that response. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love it when people are like, yo, this track is blazing it, da 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 da. I love that too. But this on this topic, people are like, yo, folks need to hear this song. I'm like, wow. For me as a creative, I gotta be honest. I think that I'm blessed to have been able to work on this song, and that's the reason I want to share this song with people, because, you know, I've had so many of those young people that you were talking about before, and that's what I'm talking about when I say I've let so many people hear it. And they every single one of them came back, and I'm talking about different people, different times, different ages, different races, different geographical locations. Almost every single one of them came back and said, people need to hear this song. Wow. And that, I think, is amazing. And I just look at that and say, I'm blessed to, for whatever little part I play in this, I'm blessed to have played that part. So, but yes, that's the song. I'm sorry, I was probably too long in answer. Sorry.
That's okay. So then proceeds from the song goes to Samaritans of New York. Can you tell us about Samaritans of New York?
Sure. So, yes, a portion of the proceeds for the song will go to Samaritans NYC or of New York. But let's be clear. Samaritans, the organization itself, is a global organization. And so when someone from my team came to me and suggested that we partner with an organization, and just a quick backstory on that, I created the song and I wanted to help people. That was the total inspiration. But one of the folks from our team came back to me and said, you know, your reach, even if a lot of people hear the song, and God willing that they will, they're like, your reaches will still be limited relative to what one of these bigger organizations will be able to do in terms of reach and impact and so on and so forth. So, so we looked around and we decided on Samaritan NYC, because I'm in the New York metro area. But Samaritan itself is a global organization. They have affiliates in several of the major cities in the U.S., but they have London, Tokyo, Zimbabwe, Hong Kong. So they're global, and they're one of the few organizations that are dedicated to suicide prevention and awareness and education. And so a portion of the proceeds will go to them so that they can, because they're the professionals. They really know how to help people, and they're focused and dedicated on helping people. So I'm really happy that we were able to form an alignment with them so that folks who are in distress and who are struggling, they'll have some place to go with professionals who can help them. So please check them out. They're at SamaritansNYC.org. That's the New York chapter. But as I said, they're a global organization, and they're doing phenomenal work. And they're one of the few organizations, and this was big for us, or me personally anyway, that they have like a 24-hour-a-day dedicated hotline to help folks. And I think that's key, because folks are struggling, especially like this time of year. While it's a wonderful season for most of us, for some people, this time of year is really, really hard because we're going into the holiday season. And so folks need help when they need help.
Right.
And so, so I think Samaritan is a wonderful, wonderful program. And I'm very honored to have the privilege of working with them.
That's wonderful. And that is like it's an eye-opener and another resource that nobody knew about.
Well, in that case, I'm glad that I have the opportunity to help spread the word about them, because they are really a great organization.
Now, and speaking of great opportunities, Samaritans is a great organization, but you've inked yourself some deals since Choose Life presented itself. So can you tell us about those briefly? Because I'm pretty sure some of these things, the ink hasn't quite dried yet, but if you can share a little about the new opportunities that you have now that you're back in the game.
Oh, well, let's see. I've got a deal in place with A&E, A&E TV and movies, so and A&E Lifetime. So I'm working on projects for them to write for their TV shows and movies and so on and so forth. So that's great. I've had the opportunity to work with some of the bigger names out there. So, for example, Timberland started Beat Club, so I've been invited to become a member of Beat Club, where he's putting together producers and lyricists and so on and so forth to work on projects together. Mr. Stanley Brown, one of the preeminent producers in the game, he's the gentleman who found like Kirk Franklin and I believe Mary and several other folks. He and I are supposed to collaborate on some stuff. If we can finally get the schedules and stuff down. Shout out to my lawyer, Jan Walden. He's one of the top attorneys in the game. He introduced me to Rockwilder, and so he and I are supposed to work on some stuff. So there have been a lot of good opportunities. I've been blessed. I've been really, really blessed. So thank the good Lord for the opportunities. So.
Well, you're doing amazing. You're doing a great job. Choose Life, it's releasing on December. When is it releasing?
Oh, tomorrow, December 1st. So, yes, folks will be able to find, it'll be on all of the major services for download. So it'll be on Amazon. It'll be on Spotify. It'll be on Tidal. So wherever you go to download and check out your music, it'll be there. So folks, please help support it. It is a, as you said, it's a heavy topic, but we're going to try and lighten it up. The track, as I said, it's an upbeat track. This is not a sad track. This is an upbeat, inspirational, hopeful track, and it's done that way intentionally. So folks will like listening to the song, and if they take something away from it, that's just a bonus, I guess. But they'll definitely, it'll make you move a little bit, which, that's important too, because, we don't want everything to be so heavy. We want them to enjoy the music while I guess, the heavy stuff sort of is there too. So thank you. I so appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be here tonight and talk about this. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for taking the time. And my final question is, where can viewers follow you and just stay up to everything that you have going on? Because I know it's coming at you fast, so you're going to be moving and shaking in the next coming year.
Oh, well, from your mouth to God's ear, and thank you. So folks can follow me on Instagram at D.Y McDaniel 16. That's D.Y McDaniel 16, the numbers, or SoundCloud, same one, D.Y McDaniel 16, and those are the two major places right now. But follow me, and I'm definitely going to be putting out some information through both of those sources. We're putting out new tracks, putting out information on other things that are going on that we're not quite ready to unveil just yet. But I think people are going to be very happy and excited in the very near future about some stuff that I'm not able to speak about just tonight.
That's all right. We're going to stay tapped in, so when it comes up, we'll be front and center.
There you go. So, and I'll be happy to tell you about them as soon as I can. So, but again, in all sincerity, thank you so very much for having me on tonight. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, it was an honor. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
Well, thank you, ma'am. So, have a happy and wonderful and blessed holiday.
You as well.
Thank you. All right, you take good care now.